Today's episode of DRL is brought to you by Hella Cocktail Company. My guests don't just come to DRL for me. They also come for the cocktails. Luckily, my friends at Hella Cocktail Company have my back. These guys make amazing mixes, from Bloody Mary to Margarita to Moscow Mule. They also make cocktail bitters, my secret ingredient, and now yours too. It's easy to feel like the best bartender in town when every bottle comes with a simple recipe on it. Hella Cocktail Company, bold flavor, real ingredients, hospitality. Mixing it up since 2011. Shop the collection on Amazon Prime or use code DRL online at hellacocktail.co for free shipping. Hello, my lovely listeners. Welcome back to another episode of DRL, where we're talking everything dating, relationships, and love. I'm your host, Tennesha Wood. So still out in Minnesota. Today, I'm here with Maimon. Hi, Maimon.
Hi.
Maimon and I went to junior high.
Yeah.
Did you go to Northview?
Yeah.
Junior high and high school together. You went to Osseo, right?
I went to Osseo.
Yeah.
And we worked at Dunkin'
And we
Donuts.
worked at Dunkin' Donuts together. So in case you guys haven't noticed, a lot of my Minnesota guests worked at Dunkin' Donuts with me.
That's the best job ever.
My life revolved around a donut shop pretty much, and Wet Seal, because I also worked at Wet Seal. I'm Jamaican. I had several jobs. Don't get it twisted.
Always.
And I worked at a dental office.
Dang, you were a hustler.
And I was in school. And then I was in college and kept up all three.
Hey.
Humble brag, not so humble. I hate it when people do say humble brag. It's like, that wasn't humble at all. You literally just bragged on yourself. So it's okay to brag on yourself sometimes too. Like I just did. So Maimon, what's new with you?
Oh my goodness. Well, I just got married.
So yes, the reason I wanted to have you on is because I thought about you because the other day I was on Facebook last month and I was like, oh, Maimon and Garrett got married? And I was like, I thought they were already married.
That's what everyone's like. You guys weren't married? I'm like, no.
I just assumed you were already married because you guys have been together for so long and you have 2 kids together. So in my mind, I just assumed, I was like, oh, they were always married. So I was shocked when I saw that you guys got married.
It actually is kind of different. It's just weird. We were engaged for 7 years. So I'm like, husband.
So why a 7-year engagement?
We met and he already had a kid. And
how old was his son when you guys met?
Aiden was 4 and he's 13 now, which is crazy. But yeah, so he already had a kid and his dad got really sick. He got a rare disease called pulmonary fibrosis, and he was like, I want to give my dad a grandkid. Like, they're giving him like 4 to 6 years. Like, he's the best grandpa. That's what makes him happy. And I'm like, whoa. Like, grew up in a Liberian family, like church every Sunday. I never wanted to have kids before I was married. And then he proposed. And I was like, this dude is really trying to have kids. And so we just had a kid.
How long were you guys together at that point?
2 years.
Okay.
So I knew I wanted to be with him forever. And like, I knew he was the one, but like, I still, wanted to do things the traditional right way, whatever that is. Mm-hmm. And then I got pregnant again shortly after. So my baby,
the second one wasn't planned.
The second one was not planned. So I think after that, it was just like, we have 2 kids, we had a house, we moved. And the more I thought about it, I was like, I'm going to do this the way I want to do it. And something else always came up that was more important. Like, we needed a new garage door or like daycare. I mean, daycare is more than our mortgage. So, and everybody's like, just go to the courthouse. And I'm like, why? Like, why do I have to be married right now? Like, who says that we need to be married right now? Like, what's the difference? Because to me, like, he's my life partner. We're together forever. And then we went to San Diego last month, and he had to stay a night in Vegas. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, why? Why do we have to, like, I've never been to Vegas. It's never been on my bucket list of places to go. And so we get to the airport to have this 24-hour layover in Vegas. And they're like, it's Sunday. And they're like, oh, your flight out to Vegas is Monday. And he was like, no, it's not. And he's so like chill and calm and doesn't really get angry. And like, he's like sweating. And he was like, we're renting a car. I was like, dude, it's not that serious. Like, we'll just stay in San Diego another day and go home. And so we rented a car, and we're like probably an hour out from Vegas, and he's like sweating. And I'm like, why are you sweating like that? And he was like, everyone's going so fast. I was like, slow down. Like, why are you driving so fast? well, he had already planned this. And so we get to Vegas and we go out to dinner and he was like, we should get married. And I was like, shut up. And like, I'm taking pictures and my friends are like sending me Snapchats like, oh, you guys getting married? And I'm like, no, like, I'm not getting married in Vegas. And he asked and I could tell he planned it all. And I was like, you know what? Like, let's save money. Weddings are so expensive. Like, let's just do it.
I don't want a wedding. So
yeah.
I'm completely on board
at this
with
point, I'm like, and if I still want to have a reception, I can, whether it's a year from now, 2 years from now, like
20 years from now,
like, but I'm not gonna go by society's norms. So yeah, so we got married and we were trying to find Andrew Hoffman.
Oh my God, did you guys find him?
No, we were there for such a short time, but him and Garrett were like best friends growing up, so it's kind of funny.
It's funny, before you got here, my mom was telling the story of Andrew Hoffman because she was saying how, you should always marry a man that loves you more than you love him. Like, that's her big life lesson to women. And so she was saying how she's like, oh, I remember Andrew. He loved Tennesha. He just loved her. Actually, I'm going to have my mom tell this story.
Yeah.
Mom, come here. So funny enough, Maimon was telling the story about how her and her husband, he planned a trip to Vegas and they got married in Vegas. Now get this. Her husband and Andrew were like best friends in high school. And so anyway, she joked and she was like, and we were trying to find Andrew Hoffman when they were in Vegas. Yeah. And I was just like, that's so funny because just before you got here, we were telling the story about Andrew Hoffman. Yeah. And so now I feel like you need to come tell the story.
How about how Andrew was in love with you?
Well, just tell the story about why you need to marry a man that loves you more than you love him, and the story of Andrew Hoffman with that. You never know what'll happen on DRL.
Okay. I'm excited to talk about this story here because this guy was really, really in love with my daughter. And my daughter here, she just couldn't see it. So it's sad because as a mother, I could see it. But
Mom, this is in high school. You also have to paint that picture. This is like 2000, 2001.
Yes, this is 2001. This is high school. Actually, the guy took my daughter to prom and she left him at the prom pretty much.
I didn't leave him. I just went home. Like, I was like, prom's done. I'm out.
Yes. And so, but this guy would, he went on a trip to Haiti and he brought back her some little stuff. And my daughter was like, why did he do this? And I said, because he cares about you. And so she just didn't seem to like the guy. And I'm like, Tennesha, this guy, he really, really likes you. You should at least give him a chance. But she didn't want to give him a chance. I don't know why. But he would continue. He persistent about showing her that he cares. He would send her a letter. He comes over like a couple of Christmas just to, when she's in town, just to meet up with her. But she would talk with him, go out, eat, and not showing him the attention. But he think, I'm in love with this girl. This is, at some point, the girl would get it. But she didn't seem to get it. So finally, when she went to Iraq, he was corresponding with her. He stopped by the house, I think, a couple of times while she was away. And he, came here that Christmas. I think it was a Christmas you came home. Mm-hmm. And he was all excited, and I was excited too because I thought once this is over, hopefully she is back home safe and Andrew can be part of the family.
Yo, she really was trying to indoctrinate Andrew into the family. He's part of the family.
Yes, and so finally I think there was a little stuff on the fireplace that he had brought here, the picture of Tennesha and Travis together that while she was away, he brought it here. I think it was for Christmas. Mm-hmm. And so did all that. Tennesha still wasn't showing the interest that I thought would attract Andrew to, but Andrew was still there. Finally, Tennesha came back. Andrew brought this package over, and he was still nice, to say the least. Then he gave the package to Tennesha. Inside there was, Tennesha was participating in high school quite a bit, so she writes for the paper. And he collected all these things. And
my God. Like all the paper clipping, like all my articles that I wrote over the 3 years in high school that I was on the paper. So he collected every article that I'd ever written, along with like
random
like memorabilia from high school that had to do with me.
And then he brought it over and I said to Tennesha, after he left, Tennesha showed it to me. And I'm like, you know what? He's over you. He's
done.
moving on. He's done. And she's like, oh, no, he'll never be over me. I said, that's what you think.
Do you hear the cockiness and the confidence? He will never get over me. No one gets over me.
I know. So she was so cocky. And I'm like, I'm just letting you know, he's done. He found a girl and he's moving on. That was it. So finally, I think Tennesha can tell that part of the story.
So then I was working full time, and for work, I had to go out to Vegas for like a convention one week, and me and a couple friends from work were staying the weekend. So we stay the weekend, and I told Andrew, like, hey, we're staying the weekend in Vegas, and he takes us out like to dinner, shows us a good time, and shows us around Vegas. And then after that weekend, I was like, you know, guys, I think I kind of like Andrew. And they were all kind of hyping me up. They were like, Andrew is like such a great guy. Like, what happened? And I was like, you know, I don't know. But you know what? You're right. He is a great guy. It's worth a shot. And so then I was like, Andrew, you know, I'm going to come back to Vegas like alone and see you like when I'm not here for work. And so I came back like 2 weekends later, and he was nice, but he was just like, it was clear that he was standoffish and treated me very much just like a friend. And it felt like a different vibe. And so by the end of the weekend, I was like, what's up? And he's like, yeah, so I'm dating somebody. And I was like, oh. And then I didn't realize at that point even how serious it was. But long story short, they're married now.
It's his wife. I mean, she's gorgeous.
Yes, it's his wife. So that was an example of a man that loved me more than I loved him. And are you over it, Mom?
I'm over it, but the lesson is when you find, as a woman, and you find a guy that really, really, really loves you, stick to him. That's the lesson. That's the guy who's going to take care of you. He meant the world to him at that time. So I knew it was pure. He didn't have anything else to compare with.
That young love.
Young love. And I think that's all he sees. So that was it.
Funny.
So anyway, that was the story of Andrew. Thanks, Mom.
Now I'm bummed I didn't find him.
Yeah, you should have, when you were in Vegas, you should have found Andrew.
I'll have to go back.
And told him to come back to me for my mother.
Yes.
It's funny because she literally, she still talks about Andrew all the time. Like, I'm like, are you in love with him? Like, do you want Andrew?
She just really wanted him to be her son-in-law.
Yeah, she did. Chris, still love you. Yeah. So anyway, you guys go to Vegas, get married. Tell me about that. How's married life?
I was raised in the church and just traditional family. My parents didn't mind that we were living together, and they didn't mind that we had kids, but like to them, it was really important that we got married. So Garrett was like, and every time my mom or dad see him, they're like, when are you guys getting married? Like marriage was like the center of every conversation. It's like we had family meetings about it. And so I think at that time, it just like felt so right. Like, you know, this is like something that my dad wanted us to do so much. My dad passed away almost 2 years ago. And the weekend before, you know, he passed away from complications after triple bypass surgery. And the weekend before he had his heart attack, he was going to come stay with us that weekend. He had flown in from Liberia because my parents are like 6 months there, 6 months here. And he had flown from Liberia and he was staying with my sister. And he was like, I'm going to come stay with you and Garrett this weekend. Like, and tell him I'm going to talk to him about you guys getting married. That was, I think, what really like moved me to like, it was right time, right place. You know, when else were we going to do it? And that was just like another contributing factor of like why it was just so important that we did it then.
You guys had already been together for what, 7 years at that point?
We've been engaged for 7 and for 9.
Yeah. So you'd already been together for a really long time, already had children. So what did the ring change and the marriage change?
You know, I think it's just like a sense of like, yes, he's my like husband. For me, really, it was just like I never knew how to refer to him, to be honest, because we've been together for so long. Like I call him like my hubby, like my partner,
my
like
baby daddy.
Yeah, I hate the word fiance. I feel like, you know, like when you first get engaged, like it's excited, but like after 7 years, like you just kind of feel silly saying it. So for me, like it was really just that I could be like my husband, and I mean it because like we're legally married now. I don't think that it's been any different. I think the only difference is me not having the same last name as my kids previously, like that. You know, sometimes that was it just made me feel a certain type of way.
Right.
And I always wanted like one of those wreaths with like the W on the door, but then I felt weird because I'm not really a Wagner. So now I've been like on Pinterest.
I am putting a W on this door.
What am I going to do for fall? It's stupid. But and also like, I feel like I've slowed down a little bit and just try to like enjoy the little moments. I'm so high strung. And I feel like for some reason it's just made me a lot more chill. And I don't know if it's like maybe just like having a vacation together or the fact that we got married and like committed. But I feel like I'm kind of just like really trying to enjoy life.
Do you feel like it more so solidifies it?
Not necessarily for us, but for like people around us. Like I never doubted in my mind that we wouldn't be together forever. And I don't believe he did either. But I think it just like was like nice to like, for those who knew us, which is silly, but
that's not silly. I mean, I think I get what you're saying. Like it was always real to you, but it was important to you that other people saw the realness.
Yeah.
I get that.
But I hate that like this government issue paper has to like dictate that.
I mean, yeah, that does suck.
Yeah. But so we did it.
I mean, for me, I feel like I used to really want to get married before I found the person that I want to marry. And now that I found the person I want to marry, I'm like I'm just like, we can or we can't. Yeah. Like it's okay either way. But I think before it was just like, I need that person and I need it to be. And I just had this grand idea. But now that I'm like, oh, like this is what I want. Like this feeling, this commitment, this love. But like it can be more. And it's not more. It's just, it can be a piece of paper. It cannot be.
Being engaged for 7 years, everybody's like, when are you guys getting married? When are you guys getting married? And I'm like, why? Like, why is it that you are supposed to be engaged for a year and then get married and then have kids? And I don't know. I think that if Garrett and I would have done it that way and done it so quickly, like if he would have proposed and then we got married and then had a kid, like that's so much so fast. I feel like I personally wouldn't have been able to like take in all of those events and activities. And like, I love the way we did it and I wouldn't change it. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like society puts so much pressure on people to like have a kid by a certain age, get married by a certain, just like do you. And that's what I did. I was like, I don't care. They're like, this is the longest engagement ever. I'm like, how does it affect you though? Like, how does it impact you? Like, why do you care? Like genuinely, like, why do you care? Like, why?
I'm happy.
Yeah.
And that's what matters to me.
And they're like, just go to the courthouse. I'm like, but I don't want to just go to the courthouse. Like, I don't know what I want to do yet. So until I figure that out, and I'm going to take my time, like, I know I want to be, all I know is that I want to be with him forever. And like, to me, that's enough. So
it's because there's this box in society and everybody thinks that if you don't do things inside of this box, that somehow you're doing it wrong. It's like, especially here in the Midwest, it's like, you know, so many people I know got married right after college. And then, you know, they were engaged for a year and then they had a kid and then they waited 2 years and then they had another kid and then they bought a house. And it's this whole like, I don't know, it's almost like you're not part of this club if you don't do that. And I'm like, when I look at it sometimes I'm like, but are y'all even happy?
Right.
Like, are you happy? It's fine to be in whatever box or outside of whichever box. But at the end of the day, make sure you're happy. If you're just fitting in a box to check a box, that's silly. That's so silly. Just to say, I'm married. I have a child. I own a home. Like, cool, amazing things. But if those things don't make you happy, why are you doing it?
And that's what I didn't want. I didn't want to move myself into, and God, weddings are so expensive. Like,
I'm not having a wedding. Yeah, that's just ridiculous.
I'm just like, I want to travel. And even for me, like, I still just have my engagement ring. I'm like, I don't know. Like,
what's the point of a ring?
Yeah, I'm like, I don't even know if I want a wedding band. Like, why?
But
for what?
What's the point? Like, what does it, these are the things I'm like, what does it mean? Like, what does it mean for me to have, like, does this ring change our love or how I feel about you or how you feel about me? Does this ring make us have a longer, happier marriage? Yeah. Does this wedding do that? Like, these are the things that I'm just like, I really wish that people would stop for a moment and just question all the things that they're doing, especially when they get into wedding planning and they start doing all these crazy things and they start spending all this money. And I'm like,
making like their friends or family spend all this money.
Yeah.
Like, I stood in my cousin's wedding and I could not believe how much money I racked up. Like, it was crazy. And I'm like, I'm not going to expect my friends to do that. And I wouldn't want anybody else to do that. And also, like, right now, I'd rather spend $300 on our house, anywhere in our house, than like having a band.
And it's like, are all these things going to make you happy? Like, I've been in 8 weddings. I've seen people stress out over centerpieces on tables, over icing on cakes, literal icing on cakes. And I'm like, is that making you happy? Like, are you happy on this day, this wedding day? Are you actually happy? Because you look stressed out. Yeah. And why are you doing it? Just like, so you can say, and we had this wedding. And by the way, most weddings I go to, no offense to anybody, I'm not talking about any weddings I've been in, maybe, but I largely don't remember because it's all the same stuff anyway. Yeah. And it's the same chicken, fish, or steak option. And you do the dance, the DJ, the this, the that. And I'm like, this is the same. I've been going to the same weddings for 15 years. And I'm just like, and that's fine if that's what you want. But are you happy? Are the things that you are doing on that day making you happy? And are you doing them because you want them or because you think you should do them for other people? Because other people are not in your marriage.
No.
That's it.
Preach.
If you are going to help me with every day in my marriage, I will do a wedding for you. Yeah. If every day I could call you and be like, yo, we're having an issue, come over and help solve it, I will have a wedding for you. But like, I don't think you are.
And there's a few people, right? You know,
right.
And even then.
And then you guys could come to the courthouse with me.
Yeah, exactly.
But I just wish people would stop with this like wedding mess. And it's like, but there's a part of me that's always like, I should do something in the wedding industry because I know how lucrative it is, because I know how crazy people go.
Absolutely. And I never ever, I wanted a wedding, but I never like I'm not somebody who like, this day that I want to be about me and I'm a princess. Like, I'm so simple and basic that I feel like I would have been doing it to fit in that box. And so I was actually so relieved when Garrett planned our wedding, and like, I'm like, this is perfect. Mm-hmm. Got a way out, and I shouldn't even have had to do that, but this is how I felt like, yes, I don't have to plan this. We plan our kids' birthday parties and we almost break up. You know what I mean? Imagine a wedding.
I am not getting a piñata. This is over.
It's that serious. So yeah, I'm just like, it was perfect. And to each their own, but it's how I wanted to do it. And I have no regrets.
All I got to say is just do it your way.
Yeah.
That's it. What makes you happy? So you and Garrett met in high school.
Well, yes. So actually, I met Garrett before I was actually in high school. So Grant Ringo, me and Cassie were like best friends.
Okay, Grant Ringo was my first kiss.
Oh, I feel like Garrett kind of looks like Grant, and I always kind of had a low-key crush on Grant. So anyways,
Grant was like that
mean to me. I was like,
to fill you all in, Grant was like that Eminem white boy in high school and in junior high. If I had to compare him to somebody, he was like that white boy, but he was like really down and cool and had swag. And yeah, he was my first kiss at Brookdale Mall.
Oh, gosh, funny. that was the spot.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I went to one of Grant's basketball games with Cassie and Don, and I was like, ooh, who's that white boy with like the bleached blonde highlights and Jordans on? So after Grant's game, I was like, Grant, who's that? And he like hits me upside the head. He's like, shut up and don't talk to him. And I was like, dang. And so started high school, and I was like, there's that Garrett. And he was always dating some like white girl with blonde hair. Didn't look nothing like me.
With the blonde highlights, similar to his.
Yeah, matching highlights. And so, and then, yeah, like I continued through like high school having a crush on him, and he just thought that I was like this loud, obnoxious girl, and like paid me no attention because, a couple years younger, and me, I was always just like clowning and being goofy. And then years went by, and this is when I was in college. I went up to St. Cloud, saw him again, but he was dating another blonde.
His first son's mom.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And then a couple years go by, and my girlfriend Kelly and I had been like just doing like a college tour during the winter, like went to Mankato, went to like North Dakota, like just stayed in the Midwest, acting a fool, turning up. I'm like 24. It's winter. So we come home after like a week, and I'm just like sick. I'm tired. And she's like, let's go to Dylan's, who is her good friend and one of my friends. And I'm like, I'm not trying to go to Dylan's tonight. Like, I'm trying to like sleep and binge watch MTV shows. And so she talks me into it. I walk into Dylan's house, and the first person I see is Garrett. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like there he is, you know? And then like an hour into it, Dylan goes, oh, you know, Garrett like broke up with his last girlfriend and he's been dating black girls. Like we were like on the patio, and I was like, if he's dating black girls, like if he's down, like why isn't he dating me? Like I should have been the first person that came to mind.
If you're going that route, I am the one you
like,
go that route with. So wait, did he just have like a complete shift? Like what happened? Why did he all of a sudden start dating black women? Like how did he go? So Garrett is a white man.
Yeah.
Obviously with the blonde white tips. So, you know, not surprising that he was dating white women, but like what in his life caused a sudden shift that he was now like, I date black women now?
You know, I don't know. He never really, I've asked him that. I was like, what made you like start dating like women of color, you know, black women, especially like, I feel he dated like the girls before me, you know, because of course I had to Facebook stalk them. Like they were like very educated, beautiful, like dark melanated black women. And so I was like, what made you go down that path? And
he went the complete opposite.
Yeah. And he was like, I just want to try something completely new because that wasn't working for me, you know? And he was like, it was like when online dating first kind of like took off, like, I don't know, Plenty of Fish.
So maybe he always wanted to find this,
yeah.
But you know, he just couldn't. We live in Minnesota, so the selection maybe isn't everything all the time.
And Garrett doesn't have a lot of games, so I feel like online may have been a little easier for him to go down that route. Sorry.
Got it.
And so, yeah, I had a couple, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to talk to him. Had a couple shots and like walked up to him and I was like, you're a sexy white boy. And just grabbed him.
Wait, that was your opening line? You're a sexy white boy.
And then we kissed and the rest was history. I just was persistent.
Nobody used that line, please.
I mean, it worked for me, but I don't think on the daily that would work. So yeah, I guess I don't have game either.
So at that point, he had already had a son.
Yep. Aiden.
How did you know that?
Yep, I knew that because she went to high school with us.
She was a friend or no?
I mean, we weren't friends. We didn't like call each other to hang out, but like her best friend and my best friend were really good friends at the time. And so like we had like went out together and kicked it together, but she wasn't like my girl. After Garrett and I started hanging out, we had been like hanging out for a couple months. And like every time she dropped Aiden off, I would like hide. And he was like, okay, like, do you want to make this official so you're more comfortable? And so so we kept it on the low until like we knew we were going to be in a committed relationship. And then I called her and was like, hey, I just want to let you know that dating Garrett.
What did she say?
She was like, good luck, he's a cheater.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, all right, well, thank you. You know,
I'll take my chances.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Here I am.
Wow. So how was it for you, I guess, sort of knowing her loosely from running in the same circle and then him having a son with her? Like, how did that work out?
You know, like, of course, I was still like 24, 25, and I feel like young. That's still young.
That is
especially
young.
For, yeah, you know.
That is
and
young.
so, I mean, for him and it took some adjusting because I was still trying to go see like Ritz City on Wednesday nights, like turn up on the weekdays, and he kind of had to be like, yo, like,
I'm daddy,
you know, like, and like if you're gonna be in like a part of our lives, like you have to play that role. And so, had a couple conversations, but other than that, I feel like co-parenting has like been pretty easy, and Garrett's such a good dad and he's so involved, like, and he's out, like, that's why I fell even more in love with him. Like, he's so passionate about his kids, and he's like, Aiden's always been his top priority. And I think when you're starting a relationship with someone with a kid, like, you kind of get put on the back burner. And it took me a while to even understand, like, I felt like he was always catering to her. Like, sometimes our weekends would change, or like we'd have plans and he wouldn't get dropped off, or, you know, like when you're that young and you're now turning into being a mom, but it's not your biological kid, you know, there were some arguments. And I mean, even now we still like, there's things still come up, but I think it took me a while to realize like he's going to do everything to make sure that he's involved in his son's life, even if it's not the easiest route. And it's going to hurt my feelings. Like, at the end of the day, like, now I understand, but then I didn't. But he just wants to make sure that he's consistently in his son's life.
Right.
You know? So
it's like you always got to do what's best for the kid, and that might not be what's best for you or what's best for her, but whatever's best for the kid is the route I'm going to go.
And anything else, if I felt so passionate about a situation, he would say, you know, I can have that conversation with her, but at the end of the day, it's just going to affect Aiden. You know, like that's who's going to be the one that's getting hurt in this. You know, it's eventually like it could impact Aiden. Mm-hmm. And so when he put it like that, I'm like, all right, well, don't say nothing, but I'm still pissed.
So now that you guys have your own kids, has it changed how you see her?
Absolutely. And I think, we're all human. Like, I'm sure I irritate her on the daily too, but I'm very involved in Aiden's life. Like, he goes to school, she lives in a different school district. He goes to school in our school district, which means a lot of his friends are by us. And so like he's getting to that age where he wants to be with his friends. So he's at our house a lot more. And even before that, she's really just let me kind of be his other mom. And I grew up in a blended family. So my two oldest siblings, we have different mom, different dad. But there was none of that step half like, those are my sisters, that was my mom's kids, and that was my dad's kids. Like I don't think half of my close friends even know that we don't have biological parents. And that's how I want to raise Aiden. Like, even though he looked nothing like me, I'm like, I have 3 kids. Like, I don't have a stepson. Like, my kids don't have a half brother. Like, that's their brother. Those are my kids. And I think especially just culturally where I'm from, like, we don't do that. Like he's my kid. And so I think after having my kids, knowing that if Garrett and I were to ever separate, I don't know if I could let another woman be so involved in their lives. Mm-hmm. So for that, I'm forever grateful, you know? And,
right.
And we do have her husband and I were also friends in high school. Like, we all graduated together.
This is very incestuous.
You know, I didn't leave for college. Like, I stayed here. I didn't venture off very far. And so I think that's always been a little easier just to know, like, who is in Aiden's life and who is his stepdad, and, you know, like knowing that you're connected, you know, in some way.
Yeah. That is really great that she was able to be like that, like let you be in that role. And sort of being in your role myself, I realized like it's not always like that, but it's great that it is. Like the girl's mom is the same way, where she's very much like, here, you know, like, be in their lives. Like, they love you. Like, you're a part of them, and like is very opening and accepting. But yeah, sometimes I'm like, I would question this, or you know what I mean? Like, I'm the type of person that would probably be like, I'm running a background check on you. Yeah. I need to know who you are, where you're from, what you're doing, this, that. But her inherent trust of me comes from Chris's trust of me. And I think that's like dope that they still have that sort of trust and bond, that like they trust each other to make decisions on behalf of their kids and the people that come into their kids' lives. And so like, shout out to good blended families and good step parenting, because I think often you hear more horror stories than good stories, where it's just like baby mama drama and they're fighting over the kids and they're doing that and this and they're doing that. And I'm like, that's not my experience, you know, and it doesn't have to be like that. And part of the reason I think that, like, when I first started dating Chris, I was like, I don't really date men with kids. And it's because that was my perception of what dating a man with children is the drama, the baby mama, the that. And it wasn't that at all. And I think we just need to share more stories like that to let people know, like, people have had children in their past, and that's okay. Like, they're still lovable. Their children are lovable. You can build a great life, but like, don't write somebody off just because of what you think it might be, because there's so many other stories that exist.
That's so true. I feel like you don't always hear the positive stories, and I feel as though oftentimes, like, I've had to like center myself, like, why is it that you're actually upset? You know what I mean? Because if I didn't, and I just ran my mouth, we couldn't have this positive relationship. And I see that with other people, and it's like, they're going to have to learn on their own time, like, because it took me time to learn, but also, yes, share the positive stories.
Do you know why I think people sort of get really defensive over this stuff and like their feelings get hurt so easily? It's because I think we hold our value, like our inherent value, in certain titles, right? So the value of the mother title is held greater than the value of stepmother title. And so because of that, there's like an inherent need to, I think, fight for your value. And then when with the biological mother, they know their value as a mother, but it's then threatened when there's any other form of mother that might come into that. So whether that's like stepmother or just any other mother, it like is like, what is that threatening to my post and my rank and who I am as a mother? And so like everybody, I don't know, is threatened by not feeling valued enough or their place in the hierarchy being taken away, when really at the end of the day, it's like, look, we all are trying to do the same exact job. Like we are trying to make sure that this child is loved and cared for and becomes an amazing human being that's contributing to society. And like everything else is really just our own ego getting in the way of that. And none of the other stuff really matters as long as like we're helping this child flourish. But like as adults, we let our ego just rule us sometimes.
And I've definitely, I will speak my truth and say I've definitely let my ego get there. And that's why I say, you know, culturally, I'm Aiden's mom. You know, I know that he doesn't call me mom, but when he's at my house, that's my son. I'm his mom.
You said you come from a Liberian family. Mm-hmm. How was it when you, I guess, married a white boy? Were they surprised? Were they like, we wanted you to marry a Liberian man? Like, did they care? Was it nothing?
I remember being 16 years old, and I didn't have a car in high school. I had my license, but like I'd like snatch my dad's car, or else like he was literally my personal chauffeur because I was the last. I'm the youngest of 7, so I was his last one. So he would basically just like drive me around, and we were driving, and he looks at me, he goes, "You know, if you want to marry a white man, that's okay." I was like, "Come again? Like, excuse me?" And I was like, "What are you trying to say?" But you know, when we moved to Brooklyn Park, when I moved back from Liberia, like there wasn't a lot of diversity like it is now. So
wait, did you grow up in Liberia?
I was born here, but then when I was like 6 months, my dad graduated college. He was here on a student visa. So then we moved to Liberia. I lived there for like 4 years, and then the war started, so we came back.
Got it.
And so, I mean, you know, like my parents like try to put me in sports, or you know, just like make sure that I would like, you know, stay out of trouble. And so a lot of my friends that I would like play soccer with or gymnastics, they were all white. So I think my dad just assumed because I had so many white friends that who would I end up with? I feel like my parents are really cool, and they didn't care as long as I married a Christian man, which is not Garrett. He's very science driven, and I'm so glad I don't have to have that conversation with my dad. But like my mom, when we had our boys, my mom moved in with us because she was like, we don't take our kids to daycare, you know, like until they can like talk and communicate. And so she like came in and lived with us, and like every Sunday she'd be like, we're like getting ready for church, and she'd be like, "Where's Garrett?" And I'm like, "Oh, he's going to the gym." And she'd be like, he's not coming to church, you know? And I just be like,
that's his church.
Yeah. And I like never really knew how to tell her. And she's like, "Well, tell him I'm praying for him," you know? And she would like he still gets text messages of like prayers and reply stop. But yeah, so I feel like my parents love Garrett for who he is, and like that was never an issue, you know.
So okay, here's what I really want to know. So you come from a very traditional Liberian family. You live there, grew up there, and this isn't even so much a race issue, but like a culture issue. Garrett, I assume, is like born, raised Minnesota.
Yes.
And so that's two very different cultures.
Very different cultures.
I mean, was there any culture shock for him? Like, what is fufu? Like, what's happening? Oh. What are we eating? What is this? What are they saying? They're speaking English, but I do not understand what's happening. Like, was there anything like that?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I feel like now that it's been 10 years, like there's been enough Thanksgivings, Christmas, like weddings, birthday parties. But yeah, I mean, for sure at first, you know, there was just the language barrier, because when I'm with my family, I speak Liberian English. So, you know, even his parents still have a hard time understanding my mom. And I don't think my mom has an accent, but I guess when I'm speaking with her, you know. But yeah, but the food, like he loves our food. Like he was very open to learning about our culture. But I mean, he is a white Midwestern man. So there's like some things that I still feel like I struggle with, like even within parenting.
Like what?
And I mean, I've never ever wanted to spank my kids. I don't even know if that's something that I would do, but I remember like Garrett's never told me like, we can't do this, or like, this is a hard no. Like, he's usually like pretty chill. Like, that's why I love him. Like, he's patient, like just, but he was like, I don't like spanking, and like, we won't spank our kids. Like, I never talked to him about it with Aiden, because like, there was never a time that I thought Aiden needed a spanking. You know, everything was age appropriate. He was a pretty good kid. But when I was pregnant with Isaac, I was like, oh, like, I don't know if I'm ready to like make that commitment. And he was like, I never got spanked. And I'm like, you should have got spankings, because like, look at you.
I might need to spank this child. I don't know what he'll be like.
Right. Yeah. Like, I can't agree to that. Or even just like spoiling. I feel like Garrett was, and he'll say it, like, he was a pretty spoiled kid. Like, he got everything he wanted. And, you know, I was living here during a time where my country was going through a civil war. So my mom was working doubles, triples. Like, my mom barely came to any of my games, like, as a kid, because she was always working, you know? And I just feel like sometimes, like, the communication, like, he just spoils them a little bit more than I do. And like, and that's okay. I'm okay with that, because like, I'm okay with being the one that's harsh. Like,
there's a balance.
There's a balance. Yeah. Yeah. So like, I'm cool with that. But I mean, especially where we are right now in 2019, I don't want to say his name, but I feel like even the past 2 years with like the racial shift, like, I'm such a social justice warrior, and I've always been. And I feel like that's something that he's definitely listened to and learned more about. And even in his whiteness, like, he knows his privilege. I mean, I'm not going to say he's woke, but like, he definitely, I would say, is like an ally. And like, I could never be with a white man who didn't understand like the struggles that Black people have encountered in this world, and like what we're facing today. And so I think that's something that I appreciate about him, and I always was somewhat concerned about. And I don't think that he really made that like 100% commitment shift in his head until he had kids.
And he's like, these kids are Black.
Yeah. And he was like, because one day, I don't know if it was like Philando Castile, or there was something that happened in regards to police brutality. And he was like, when Aiden gets his license, I'm going to have such a different conversation with him than I will with Isaac and Zay. And I'm like, oh, all day, you know? And so I think, yes, him having Black kids has raised that concern and like make him more aware when it comes to like social issues and disparities when it comes to people of color. So
I appreciate when people that aren't necessarily personally affected by something can think about it and can understand and can appreciate and can fight for it. And I mean, if you think about your average white boy in Minnesota, like, they don't have a reason to really think about it. It's like, I'm good.
It's never going to impact them.
And so I think the beauty of interracial relationships is that, I mean, it's forced that. Like, you're with me every day. You're going to see how I live. You're going to see how I'm treated sometimes versus how you're treated. Like, you can't help but see it. You're going to see how sometimes your children are treated. And like, you're going to realize that's messed up. And you're going to want to do something about it. Like, I hope people can get there before, but when it's really affecting your life, like, you have to do something. And so I think the beauty is like, yeah, he gets to see the other side and hopefully can help to like further the cause.
Yeah.
Was his family on board with you guys, or were they shocked? Because typically he dated, like you said, blonde haired.
You know, I am kind of obsessed with my in-laws. It's like, just
when why are you so obsessed with me? Everybody knows that you're texting me.
Yes, I was hoping a song drop would come in with you.
Always.
They never showed it. If they felt any type of way, I mean, his parents are the kind of people that, like, I was always like, dang, his parents love me. Like, they just think that I'm everything, but they would take the shirts off their back for anybody. So it's not necessarily me, but no, I really don't think that his parents, like, they cared one way or another. Like, they've just always been super welcoming, super open. They're like the best grandparents and in-laws ever. They help us out so much with our kids. And yeah, I mean, now he's got some extended family in Wisconsin that I
That aren't eating the fufu.
that aren't eating the fufu. They don't even want the fufu to be here. We'll put it that way.
So you guys were together pretty young because you were what, 25?
Yeah.
So what's changed, I guess, in the way that you see relationships and marriage from when you guys started out at 25 to now? You're 32, 33?
I'm 33. I just turned 33. Yeah. And I mean, we've gone through a lot. I mean, from his dad being in the hospital for 3 months after a lung transplant, like sedated, and like every day was a roller coaster like that. Him and his dad are really, really close. So I think that took a toll on our relationship. And then briefly after that, like my dad passed. And even without those two contributing factors, like relationships are so much work. And then you add children to it. Like, I'm like, what did I do before I had kids? Like, what did I do when I got off of work? You know, it's from one job to the next. And I have really high anxiety. I try to like run and be mindful, but at the end of the day, like I'm still human and it's a stressor. We both graduated college later in life. And so I think, you know, you talk about finance and just stress. And I think now that we're married, there's just like this sense of comfort, which I don't know why. But like you always worry, like when you get in an argument or you have like a significant difference, like how that's going to impact your relationship. And then when you have kids, but relationships are so much work. And
it's not easy.
Garrett was my first like actual relationship. Like I dated with people, messed with people, but like he was like my first actual relationship. And so there was a lot of things that he had experienced that I hadn't. And so I think that made him even more patient. But yeah, I just, and once again, that cultural piece, like and I feel like his family in general, and a lot of white people, like, I'm like, if me and my sisters are beefing or we're fighting, like we're going to yell at each other, we're going to talk through it. And then like, he thinks me and Zoe's relationship still is like so weird. Cause like, we'll like cuss each other out and then be like, oh, are you guys coming over? Like Garrett's grilling and he'll be like, your sister's coming over. Didn't you guys get in a fight last night? I was like, yeah, like we got through it. But he's the kind of person that like closes off and wants to think about it. And I want to talk through things right away.
I feel like that's also a very like Minnesota thing.
Yeah.
Is like, you know, the Minnesota nice, passive aggressive, yeah. Like, I'll be mad, but I won't say I'm mad. Mm-hmm. And I far prefer when, if you're mad at me, yell at me, say something, let me know you're mad. Let me know you don't like me right now, but like, don't keep it in and don't smile. Don't act like nothing's wrong.
Yeah.
But it is a very Minnesota thing where it's like, oh, it's fine. And then it's like, well, I just saw you at this party and you didn't speak to me. You said it was fine. Why didn't you speak to me?
I'm lost. I'm confused.
Right.
It's very Minnesota passive aggressive. So I think that's something that we've both worked on, like how I communicate with him, because I know that if I do, you know, I can be who I am and like he'll respect that, but I know that I'll get a better response and a quicker response if I'm just like, what did I do wrong? Or why are you upset? And now after almost 10 years, like I know his triggers and he knows mine. So we try to work through that. And I think that's something that takes a lot of time and we're still working through. And I feel like that might be continuous. It might not, but just depending on the stressors of life and how that works, it's different day to day. But yeah, I'll just say at the end of the day, relationships are a lot of work, but definitely happy I found my person who's a patient soul, because I am not.
Balance. It's all about balance. Yeah. What do you think the hardest thing about maintaining a relationship is?
Especially with kids, like just making time for each other. Like I feel like the whole like date your spouse thing is so cheesy, but it's so important. Like because Garrett and I really do have so much fun together. Like it could just be him and I and no one else. And like we have the best time together, but it's sometimes hard to make time for each other because by the time like we get the kids to bed or like it's the weekend, I'm tired and he's such like a night owl, like trying to figure out our schedule. But yeah, like last night his parents took our kids and it was just us and we just chilled at home and, you know, like watched Netflix comedy specials.
So what is next for you all?
Oh my gosh. Trying to find a new daycare provider. Seriously, my daycare lady told me she was retiring on Friday and it's really stressing me out.
No.
We got 6 weeks. But yeah, no, I think we're just really, I feel like we're both at this place too, where we're just like really trying to like focus and reel in on our health. Once again, like having kids, like just makes you realize that like you're not going to be here forever. And like, you've got these little people that just depend on you. So I've just really been trying to focus on my mental health, my physical health, and like get him to do the same and just trying to spend time together. I feel like that's something that we've kind of like put on the back burner. And once we went to San Diego and kind of had some of that time together, we like realized the importance of like it's okay to like let the kids go with grandpa or grandma, get a babysitter.
Well, thank you for coming on today, Maimon.
Thank you for having me.
I know you're a faithful DRL listener, so I knew you had to be on when I came back to Minnesota.
Fangirl all the way. And I've always like telling Garrett last night, I've always looked up to 10 and like she's always kind of been like mentor big sis. So this was fun to just be in your presence. And
thank you.
I remember when I was graduating high school, you were like, you should totally join the Army. And I'm like, oh, I should listen to her. So much less in debt. Why didn't I listen?
Kind of risked my life, but I am debt free. But it wasn't worth my life. Yeah. So probably a good thing.
Yes. Oh, funny.
Can people reach you on the gram?
Yeah, my Instagram is Mia Queegs.
MIA
QUEEGS.
Okay.
I should probably change it now that I'm married, though.
Yeah, because you should change it to Mia Wags.
Mia Wags.
Actually, kind of has a ring.
Yeah, I like
Mia
it.
Wags.
Mia Wags.
Yeah, but it sounds a little like porn star. Mia Wags.
Yeah, I mean,
depending on how
Wags.
you say it. Mia Wags.
Is that a reality show?
Mia Wags. I feel like Wags is a reality. I feel like
Wives and Girlfriends of
something.
Sports or something.
Yeah. Mia Wags.
Definitely not me.
Well, thank you again for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
And I'm wishing you guys the best. And congratulations on the marriage and doing it your way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. And you guys, please reach out to me at Tennesha Wood on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter and let me know what you think of today's show. And until next time, wish me love. Hello again, my lovely listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of DRL. If you like the show, be sure to go on iTunes and leave a rating and also write a review. And don't forget to share with your friends and tell them all about DRL. Thank you so much for supporting.